Hey, what's going on? We got a call here, and the customer's complaint is that his refrigerator's not working, and several electrical things are not working. The park that we're in here in Clemson, South Carolina, for some reason told the guy, "You just cut your batteries off, you don't need them. You've got shore power, it'll keep everything going for you." In some scenarios that's not wrong, but a lot of these manufacturers are wiring their 12-volt refrigerators directly to the battery, and so if you cut off your batteries can't get charged, and they can't get charged, the fridge ain't gonna work. But he said there was other things wrong too, so we're gonna go jump into this and see what we can find, see if we can get the fella going. So let's do it. When it comes to electrical, I've learned over the years, just start at the beginning, start at the post. I don't know how many times I think something's wrong with a camper or motorhome, and the problem's the post. So it's a relatively new park, so everything here is pretty new, but it is electricity. It does go bad. Well, not the electricity, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, we're going to go straight to the post, and we're going to verify what we got going on here before we move any further. So the customer's got a 50 amp coach, and we are going to kill the juice, pull the plug, put my tester in, turn the pump breaker on, and we are good. Everything's wired correctly. All right. So the problem at the moment is not the post. So I'm gonna plug him back in, turn the breaker back on. Now we'll move to the next step. And his cord goes straight to the back here. Oh, we got a dryer vent on the door. What's this all about? Guess they have a washer dryer in here. All right. Cord into the back wall there. I'm gonna go inside and just go straight to the breaker panel and see what we got going on in there. Verify the power in there. If the power in there is kind of wanky, then I'm coming back out here to this inlet. Something I could do right now, real easy to verify, is he's got the covers off of his batteries already, because he's just kind of checking things out, but by his own admission, he says, "I don't know much about campers." So anyway, since the covers are already off the batteries and everything, it'd be easy to check. Let's just go ahead and just check the batteries right now. Let's see what we got going on here. We got two. He said the camper is a 23 model, and the batteries were brand new when they bought the camper. So let's see. Oh, sorry about the wobbly camera work here. This is I need a cameraman. Alright, so we got the meter on the DC scale, and I always look to make sure just the batteries are wired right. We've got one positive here that runs off to the coach. The positive runs to the positive of this battery. The negative from this battery runs to the negative of that battery. But I can already see that there's a better way to wire this. When you've got more than one battery in an equation, you want the electrons to flow through both of them. Well, the way it's wired right now, it's coach positive, coach negative, and this is more like a slave battery back here, because this is not going to get the full charge of electrons that that's going to get. because it's positive and negative there off the coach. So what we're going to do is we're going to take negative off the coach and put it down here on this battery, so that the charge that comes from the converter is going to hit here, flow through it, and then flow through this and flow out negative here. So that's going to be the first thing I'm going to change. But in the interim, I'm going to go ahead and throw my probes on and see what kind of numbers we got. Yeah, we got 2 volts. So yeah, we definitely have some dead batteries here. 2 volts. That ain't gonna run much, if anything. All right, so here in his basement, we've got our battery cut off. And he's got it on, but it is not charging the battery. We have no lights. Our solar charge controller here is blank. So yes, we definitely have a 12 volt issue going on here at the old camper. So but first things first, like I said, I'm going to move this negative back here. If there's enough cable to reach, there should be, yeah, there is a whole lot of cable to reach. It starts here and ends right here in the frame. So I'm going to take this off here and put it here, and then we'll move along to more detective work. Okay, end result. This is the cable that ties the batteries together, and here's the negative from the coach. So we got positive coach, negative coach. Electrons are going to flow through that bank. All right, so that problem is resolved. Let's go inside and see what we can find. Well, whenever I'm dealing with a electrical issue, you know, campers have 2 electrical systems in them, a DC and an AC. First thing I do when I want to verify the presence of AC voltage is look at the microwave. And the clock is on the microwave, which tells me at least one leg of AC voltage is on in the camper. Not going to be able to run any air conditioners because our 12 volts is not present. So here's our breaker panel down here. We're going to jump down there in the panel and verify we got 120 volts on both legs, and if we do, then we're going to be hunting a power converter and seeing if we've got some blown fuses for a power converter. Well, power converter is right next to it. It's a progressive dynamics. So the venting right there to the right is the ventilation for the converter. So anyhow, I'm gonna set you up and you can watch. Can't really get at the electrical, the breakers and all that with this cover on. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it off. I get my little Robertson head out of here. Number 2 Robertson. All right. Multimeter. Oh, and look here. Empty cavity. There is no power converter in there, but the wires for a converter right here. So it must be a duct mount back there hiding behind it. They would call this a slide in or a slip in converter that is not there. But on the AC scale, turn the light on. Maybe you guys can see. I don't know. There you go. You can see the number on the bottom. Let's see if we've got 2 legs of power. 121 volts there, 119 volts there. So we have 2 legs of good power. Okay, these fuses here are the fuses for our converter. So we'll put this back on the DC scale, and from the battery we only had 2 volts, so, and we've got 2 volts. Alright, I'm going to leave my negative here from the battery. I'm going to check my fuses. 2 volts, 2 volts, 2 volts, 2 volts, 2 volts, 2 volts. Okay, so all of the fuses for the converter are good. Out of all of the breakers here, let's see which one is it that runs our converter. Let's see, fireplace. Converter is the very last one. Microwave. Yep, that's the microwave. And here's converter. Alright. So, with that being said, let's see if the breaker for the power converter has got power. 118, 19 volts. So the power converter is, at least right here, is getting juice. But we need to find the actual converter and see what the major malfunction is here. And there's the converter way in the back. Hey, right back there, up against the wall on the floor. That's our converter. So we need to jump back there and see if there's... usually deck mount converters have fuses on the side of those. I'm wondering, even though I've got good fuses here on the panel, we're going to check and see about fuses on the deck mount, and it could just be that there's a blown fuse, and if that's all it is, this should be a pretty easy fix. But we're going to have to move this panel out of the way, and you can see that that's easier said than done. No, it's not too bad. Let's scoot it over like that. I'm going to go get a flashlight. Okay, so the way the manufacturer powers this deck mount back here is you can see this receptacle on the floor right here. So they plug the converter into that receptacle, and then of course the wiring right here runs to the breaker and the breaker panel. But one thing that we can do though, so we can pull that plug out of that receptacle and stick my tester in there and verify that we've got power at the receptacle. Let's do that. Okay. I know it's probably hard to see with the light on, but there we go. Got the right hertz, got the right volts. So the problem is not the receptacle. Alright, so I'm looking and leaning towards a fuse or fuses, and I was right. If you look where the red and black wire go into the converter there, you'll see 2 orange fuses. So we're going to pull those guys out and give those a look, see what we got. For it being a brand new camper, I mean, it is a 23 model, it's not brand new, but it's new enough. I would sure hate to think that power converter's gone bad already, but it's Chinese electronics. Let's look at fuses. Okay, well, I've pulled them, and I'm sure it's probably hard to tell on camera. Maybe not, but this one's intact, and this one looks intact. But I'm going to take my multimeter and we're just going to verify if they're intact. put the meter on continuity, and if you touch your probes together, you got continuity, right? Well, if this fuse is blown somewhere where I can't see, then there's going to be no beep. But there is a beep. So that fuse is good. Let's see if this one is. We're all good. Okay. I think we may be looking at a failed power converter here. The only other way to verify is we're going to stick these two fuses back in that converter back there and plug it back in, verify the breaker's on, and if that converter has got 120 volts going to it but there's no DC voltage coming out of it, then we've got a bad converter, and the only way to solve this man's problem is to replace it. I hate that for him, but I've got a feeling that's what we're looking down the barrel of right now. So let's go do that. Alright. Well, I've got the fuses back in. I had to pull the screws out of the floor that hold it down. There's usually, depending on the manufacturer and depending on who was installing them that day and depending on how lazy of a person or thorough of a person it is, could be one screw holding it down, could be 4 screws holding it down, but as you can see, it's slotted right here. So all I had to do was just take them screws out, and then I could just scoot the thing back out of the screws in the back. Anyway, I'm gonna plug this in, and we're gonna take the meter and see, do we have DC volts where that black and that red are coming out? Because we should. And guys, we have no volts. Man, I hate it for them. Alright, looks like we're going to be doing a converter replacement. So let me go give the customer a call and look through the truck and find a converter. I'm going to try and sit you someplace that you can watch without being in my way. Oh, cameraman. Did I mention that I'd love to have a cameraman? Alright, so the customer gave us a green light. Go ahead and replace the converter. So that is what we're going to do. Yeah, that 12 volt positive wasn't very tight, was it? We're going to be replacing these cables because the new deck mount is actually 10 amps bigger. It's a 65 amp instead of a 55 amp. So it comes with its own cable. Well, maybe not. I may be misthinking right here. Yeah, I am misthinking. Alright. Alright, well, so far so good on you guys watching. I see one screw on the floor back there. I'm going to get that up before I put my converter in. I wish I had something like a bill hilly to get back here and do this. I wonder where I could find a bill hilly. All right. Now the new converter is a different brand, but you know, just a different brand, but it does the same thing. This one is made by Power Max. It's not a WFCO product, but it actually comes with a better warranty, and of course the manufacturer claims they're better than WFCO. out of the box and hold the camera. All right, here we go. Got it out of the box. Let's get the box out of the way now. All right, this is what we're looking at. So we got a power cord on one side, cooling fan. It's laid out pretty much the same way as the other one, but the grounding cable, our bare copper, will go in here instead of on the side. But yeah, positive, negative, our 2 fuses. We'll get that all wired up and plug her in. It's interesting the size of the cabling the manufacturer used. Normally they use a bigger gauge than that, but it ain't much bigger. We're putting our bare copper in our ground lug here. Tighten that up. And I'll come back with a torque screwdriver after I'm done and just make sure everything's at its happy torque rating. I wish they would just use the Allen head like all the other brands do. Oh, my eyes are getting bad. I think I'm about to put a smaller flathead on it. That's the custom. Well, it would help to put my screwdriver in the right hole. Holy cow. Alright, so we'll stick our positive in. Yeah. Tighten that down. Alright, so we're going to tighten this down, and I'll consult the manual that came with this in the box and see what the torque rating is. And that came right back out. It's hard to do this one-handed. I'm having to lay on my stomach on the floor, and I got my left arm kind of underneath me to support me. All I want to do is get it snugged up. Alright, we're snug. Alright, let me go get my torque screwdriver. Okay. What I'm going to go ahead and do now before I screw it to the floor is plug it in and see what we got. Well, on the back side of the converter we got a green light. Green light. Here. All right, guys. All right. Converter is doing its thing. 14.29 volts DC. Alright, so converter's going to be busy for a little bit. It's got a couple dead batteries to get charged up. And of course everything in the coach is going to want its little bit of the 12 volts too. Yeah, I just noticed that the light on the hood there, where the exhaust fan is, it's on. That's 12 volts. So, and if you can see the thermostat back there on the wall, it's populated now. It's on. So, yeah. I just needed a converter, and I hate it for them. 2023 model. But I'm going to go ahead and screw that down to the floor and put all this back together. And that'll be it. Okay, guys, I just thought I'd give you an update because an update is warranted. I'm sure several of you noticed when I was swapping out that converter that the wiring from the converter to the fuse panel was definitely on the undersized size. And I got into the moment, didn't pay attention, and I think I might have made a remark about the wiring being kind of thin, on the thin side. Surprised that Forest River would do that. Come to find out, the customer bought that camper used. It is a 23 model, but it is used. And I thought it was curious that it's a Progressive Dynamics fuse panel, breaker panel, but there's no converter in its converter hole. It has a slide-in converter onto the side there, that little empty compartment you guys saw. And there was no converter in there, but there was a deck mount back, on the floor on the wall. You saw where it was. Anyway, I started putting two and two together, and I was like, you know what? I'll bet the original converter failed. Last owner said, I ain't paying all that money for a Progressive Dynamic converter, so I'm just going to put this WFCO one in here. And oh, look over here, I've got some wire. And just grabbed that thin red-black wire that we were messing with and wired up him a converter to his fuse block. Well, it was working, right? And I guess really only God knows how long that converter has been in there. But I've got a feeling that that converter failed probably because of undersized wiring. So anyhow, after I signed off on the video and got to thinking about it, and I was like, dude, I need to go check that wiring. Well, that converter had only been working for about maybe 20 minutes or so, and everything was looking good. I mean, the battery voltage was up, all the 12 volt appliances are on and running, the fridge is running, and I kind of just reached in there and grabbed those wires, and they were very warm. And I was like, that's exactly what I didn't want to see happen, but I suspected was happening. It's just too much amperage for that small gauge of a wire. So I went digging through my truck and I found some 4-gauge cabling, and borrowed some 4-gauge cabling from the customer's battery bank, and removed those wires and put the 4-gauge wire in between the converter and the fuse panel. And it took some finagling because I only had so much cabling to work with, so I had to reposition the converter amongst all of that wiring back there behind the panel. Not easy to do. Not easy to do, but I did it. So I got the converter, those wiring ports facing the back side of that fuse panel, breaker panel. Made me a hole, run the cabling through the hole, got it wired up into the fuse bank, and whammo bammo, we've got charging voltage at the batteries again. Everything's on and running and happy. And so now I'm happy because I don't have to worry about anything melting down and potentially causing a fire. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that I did catch that, and I did upgrade the cabling, and so yeah, so we're done with that guy. He was very appreciative, especially after I explained to him, you know, why I was doing what I was doing, and he has a little bit of a HVAC background, and he just was very appreciative of the effort. So thank God I had some cabling on the truck. Otherwise, I'd be going to the nearest Radio Shack. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.